Hey y'all, how's it going? Happy Friday. Welcome to the stream. Today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Ryan Warner Codes, Ryan Warner himself. Thanks for coming back, Ryan. Really appreciate it.
Happy to be here.
If you,
Hello, Ryan Orion. That's what Ben
the
says.
Ryan,
Yeah, thanks for
the
having me on.
Ryan,
I'm excited to continue working on your blog
you're in the
design.
other direction, so I have to go this way to give you a virtual high five. But yeah, if you missed the first stream, maybe a month or two ago, Ryan came on and was helping me try to figure out how to make my Gatsby site look better. Because now that I'm using it to create more content, I want it to look a little more official. So I'm just gonna pull it up, Ryan, for anybody who hasn't seen it. I'm sure most of the people in the chat will have, but just so we get a baseline of what we're looking at here. So this is sort of what it looks like right now. The blog index itself is the homepage. We have this sidebar, which is I think a very dated design. Ryan, you can confirm that. Uh,
Honestly, it's fine.
is it?
There's things I would change about it, but like the left-hand nav, I think it's a fine choice depending on what you're going for.
Okay, all right. So it wasn't that bad of a choice. You heard it here from Ryan.
Yeah,
I,
I would probably tweak the colors and tweak the layout, tweak the padding, etc. But
yeah,
West Boss actually has a side nav, and more dashboardy style designs also can use side navs efficiently.
yeah, cool. And for anybody in the chat, Ben, I know you're out there. Welcome to the stream. Just let me know how the levels are with the audio. Ryan's Skyping in. This is the first time I'm doing this. I had to go back to OBS Studio, so just want to make sure things are good. And in terms of the site, the only other thing to mention would be that the sidebar then turns into a header at mobile views. So it's, I guess you would call that responsive. So let's get rid of that now because we're not really going to be working in the browser, at least for right now. We're going to be working here in Figma. And Ryan, this is one of Ryan's wheelhouses. I've actually learned a number of tricks I've been using since our last stream. So this is where we left off. And what we did is essentially we worked on the nav. We worked on sort of like this call out hero text at the top. And sort of we started scaffolding out what it would look like for the different types of content I'm hoping to have on the page. And Ryan, feel free to jump in. Anything you remember from last time that is sort of pertinent?
Yeah, I got some thoughts. So we've got a few different branding directions at play here. You've got your current site, you've got your stream overlay. It has its own kind of branding and feel to it. We've got that blue, the pink. I think the font might be different. And then you've hired an illustrator who is a work in progress.
Yes, it's true.
So you can see maybe if you pan over in Figma to that illustration,
Yes.
which looks great. I know you want to tweak it a little bit, but that kind of brings its own branding feel to the table.
Yeah.
You've got that kind of Western font. It's got its own set of colors and it's got a texture. And then we also have what we did last month on stream with the kind of purple and tan
Yep.
and the layout we worked on. So today I'd like to make a little progress on kind of picking one of these directions to go with. I think they're all strong
Okay.
directions. I'm kind of really liking your stream overlay, so I'm curious if we could maybe spend some time playing with the look and feel of that
Yeah,
today.
yeah. And just so everybody
And
knows,
then
Ryan did help me with that. He's not saying it, but he did. So that's why it looks good.
it's true. It was a team effort. We were both in Figma playing around getting that layout, and yeah, I like how it turned out. So we also have these gray boxes that we're going to want to flesh out in terms of content and what's going to go there and how that's going to look, what the white space is going to look like. And then there's a couple of Figma tips that I'd like to throw in along the way
Cool.
in terms of making this Figma file easy to iterate on in the future. When we flesh out the other pages, there's going to be some repeated components that we'll want to turn into Figma components for reusability.
Yeah, I love that idea. And I guess one place to start, I just want, since Ben's in the chat, the first thing I thought, I don't know about you, Ryan, the first thing I thought when I saw this illustration was that's Ben Lannon.
It does look a lot
I
like
said
that.
that's Lannon BR right there. But yeah, this is done by a illustrator, designer friend of mine named Alex Kippett, who I used to work with. So I've been working with him. He's going to be building out some start initially stream cards to sort of go with the new stream overlay. And I asked him to do like this illustration style, and so we're iterating on this right now. But that's where this is coming from. If you think this looks really cool. And another thing I think we could do here, Ryan, is I'm going to pull up, which you won't be able to see, but I'll bring them into our shared Figma space. I have the open graphic image design that I use for my social media posts. So I'll copy one of those in so we can refer to that as well.
Yeah, we could actually kind of bring all of this into one Figma file. Your OBS setup could live here. And that way you can share styles between your open graph image, your OBS overlays, and whatever else. Like if you're going to put out YouTube videos, you might have thumbnails, and that could all kind of live in the same Figma file.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, let me start with here. I'll start with these. Basically the open graph image, and here's the stream overlays. So we just have them all in one spot to start. And then I'll bring in also the only other real asset I have right now is this starting and ending card that I made for the stream. So I'll bring that in as well. That's using this orange that you'll actually see here in the open graph image, but you don't see anywhere else in my sort of like branding. So that's something we'll need to address. Okay, cool. Can you see all that, Ryan?
It's actually not coming up in my Figma file. I do see it on stream though, which is really strange.
Interesting.
There we go. It's all loading in
Okay.
now. Okay.
And these two right here, I'm going to bring them back in because it looks like they didn't come in properly. So give me 1 second here.
And feel free to just create a new page. You could create an OBS page in the file and just paste everything in there.
Oh, I got you. Okay, cool. So there's one of them. We'll grab the other one as well. And so last time on stream, just to sort of fill you in on what we're doing here, Ryan had showed me here on the sidebar how to create different pages within your Figma file and how you can use that to sort of organize your ideas and thoughts as you're getting going. So we have right now an archive page with some iterations we did and a screenshot of a contrast checker plugin for accessibility. And then we also have this inspiration page, which actually includes Ryan's website itself, because I actually really like his site a lot, and that's part of the inspiration for what we're doing here. And then we also have Kent Dodds, Chris Biscardi, and then I pulled up The Verge and some of these NASA posters that they had open sourced for colors originally. But as you'll see here, let's see, in our OBS scene, I now have these two colors. I've been using this pink and this blue. So Ryan, I think you had said you sort of agreed that you like this, these two choices. So maybe we sort of embrace it.
Yeah, if you're cool with that, this design definitely speaks to me. I feel inspired looking at it. I like the gray and the light text on top. The gray is not too saturated. Not saying that our current design, the purple, is too saturated, but it definitely gives a very heavy vibe.
Yeah.
With the dark purple.
Yeah. Hey, Sarah, thanks for the sub. That's huge. I've only been an affiliate for a little while, so this is still very new to me, and I get excited each time. And also, hey, Chris, see you in the chat. Thanks for hanging out. Ciara, I see you as well. Angel. Hey, everybody. It's a party. I know I see Prince is in there too, I think. Yeah, we got the gang.
Jacob.
Cool.
The whole gang's here. We need to get you emotes. That should be on our priority list.
Yeah, here. I was thinking about maybe commissioning, I think, what is it, Corky Candy? Who I think you showed to me, Ryan, right?
Yeah, I think I was Googling around. See what's out there in terms of paid or commissioned emotes.
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Anyway, let's maybe dive
Yeah,
in
do you
here.
want me to bring the OG image into the OBS, or do you want to just leave them all where they are right now?
I think where they are is fine. We can kind of clean this up as we go.
Okay, cool.
So as a first step, I'd probably what I like to call git commit in Figma, our current design, if we're gonna maybe play with changing the colors around.
Okay, so copy this and
So
then copy the artboard into the archive page.
yeah, just give it a copy paste, not a cut paste, but a copy paste into the archive just so we have it. And now we can go change it in our main
Yeah.
as much as we like and
So
always be able to come back to it.
So what Ryan's talking about here is we have this archive page, and these are the different iterations we went through on our first stream. So when he's saying git commit, if you think about this like horizontal line as a git branch, each of these screenshots is sort of like a commit. If you want to continue with that analogy, metaphor, whatever you want to say. Yeah, Ryan. So let's dive in.
Cool. So maybe we bring up or copy paste in our OBS. I'm going to do this actually. I'm just going to bring in the OBS scene that we're going to use for inspiration as we change this.
Cool.
And then I'm going to start grabbing some colors and just seeing what it looks like. So I'm going to grab, I know you can't really see the menus that I'm accessing here, but you'll be able to see it change in real time.
Yeah, I can see I can
so
see the little dropper, and when you like select different elements and stuff. So I have a decent idea what's going on.
Nice. And I'm going to grab this text color or an approximation, and just like seeing if this gives you any reaction as we're changing it. Maybe this text is a little dark, so I'm going to play with it.
Yeah, and I guess another thing to note would be that the background of the stream overlay I do not think is the same shade as the background we have here. So that might also be part of why the text doesn't look quite right.
Okay. Cool. So how is this feeling right now?
I mean,
It's definitely lost a lot of its saturation. That could be a good thing.
Yeah, I pulled this up earlier this week when we were talking about doing the stream, and I was actually surprised to see that we had chosen that color for the font. I'm not, on second look, not a huge fan of that like slightly off-white yellow tint.
Sure. Yeah. I think we pulled that from the NASA posters, which are very vibrant.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense like where we got it from.
Yeah.
But maybe not the best choice for a dev blog where you're trying to consume like code and critical thinking about tutorials and your hook stuff and all that.
Right.
So yeah, let's move forward with this and see where we get. All right, so I'm just going to start working through it. Kind of forget where we left off, but we do have this navigation here that the padding between seems a little high to me. There's like too much padding in between each of the nav items. So let's have you make this a component. Oh, there's my face flying across the screen.
Yeah. So I didn't have to continue. Oh, you got resized in OBS somehow. Interesting.
Dom was actually saying that was happening to him too, and we were doing some testing.
Really?
So maybe we just ignore it.
There, let me see. Yeah, there we go. If it happens again. Oh. Yep, it happened again. Right.
Resolution changes, and I have no idea why. They just got bigger again.
Yeah, I'm just going to get it so that it sits somewhere in the box, and then I'm not touching it again.
That sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah. So Max, it's actually not a pro camera. It's my Logitech C922, but Skype. We're on Skype right now because Zoom did some changes, allowing us or disallowing us from having the guest video, and Skype offers this blur background as a feature. It's just a toggle. Oh, because Skype changes resolution based on bandwidth.
So it's dropping the resolution as my connection slows.
Interesting.
Ooh. Spilled a little of my beer here, Ryan. Sorry about that. So one note about that before we continue is that because I'm on a Mac, I had an issue setting up this. I couldn't set up the Skype NDI input in Streamlabs OBS, so I actually had to go back to OBS Studio and install some plugins to get this to work. So that's how we're doing this today. And as we go, if we're probably going to revisit this at some point in the future, we'll try to refine it. So cool.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely want to get this set up going on my stream too. I haven't had a video guest yet, and that's on my to-do list, but I digress. Anyways, let's move on to making your navigation a component with auto layout. And that will allow us to super easily adjust the padding in between each of the nav items.
Cool.
So to start, I'm going to deselect here and let you drive a little bit.
Cool.
So that the viewers can see what kind of things you're clicking on.
So we're gonna select all the nav items. Oh, sorry about that. And so what I'm doing is holding Command and Shift to select them all. And then I believe from last time what we do is we hit this Create Component button.
You got it. Good memory.
So now let's name this our navigation. And so now we have a component here that it's within this group we have, but we can actually move it. The group right now is containing everything on this page, but if we want to reuse this on another frame, we can easily do that.
Exactly. So then the next step we're going to do is add auto layout here, and it's super easy. It's literally one button click. If you go to the right-hand pane, about halfway down, there's an auto layout that's kind of grayed out, but if you hit the plus, it'll just enable auto layout for this component.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And then once we've enabled auto layout, we get a new set of options here. And one of those is the padding, the horizontal padding in between each of the nav items. It just automatically determines that for us, but we can now change it, and it'll change all of them, and it'll be consistent. So
you're talking about the spacing here. There's horizontal padding, vertical padding, but there's also spacing between items.
Oh, I see. Yes. Let's play with spacing between items. I'm not exactly sure when it chooses one over the other.
Okay. Yeah, I think last time what we did is we had basically eyeballed them and then selected everything and said distribute evenly. And so it did the math.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
And before auto layout, that would have been the optimal solution. Auto layout was added, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago now. And it's very powerful in helping us move quickly.
Cool.
As well as creating components that can adapt. So like if you change your text here, one of the nav items changes in character length, it'll keep that consistent padding between items.
That's great.
So I would shrink this a bit, maybe cut it in half.
Yeah.
And see how.
So we're at 87 right now. So let's try something like 45 maybe.
That's much better.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that was way too spaced out. And I guess what we can do to sort of realistically, it would be over here.
Correct. Yeah, we can align it to the right.
I mean, I sort of like that right off the bat. I don't even know if that needs adjustment. Way better than it was before.
Cool. Let's roll with it. I might change the capitalization here. What do you think?
To be
capitalizing home and A and article and.
Let's try it. Yeah.
So Ben says, I believe Chef Brent figured out a solution to the Skype thing, and he'll message you about it.
Cool. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. That's the power of the live coders right there. Ben's going out into the Discord, sending out some ravens, seeing what information comes back. Cool. Yeah, I sort of like it, Caps. I like to do stuff lowercase just because that's how I type personally, but in terms of how that presents on a page, I think you're right. I think this probably looks better.
Cool. It is a personal choice, I think. You might need to be consistent throughout. If you go with lowercase, other places you're using nav items also go with lowercase. Personally, I prefer to lean on the grammatically correct side, but I don't think it's super important. I think we can move on.
Okay, cool. I'm just going to quickly realign that. Cool. All right, yeah, that looks great.
The answer to that question was a single Google search away. Is that question the Skype the Skype question?
Yeah, I mean, we can. It is a Google. Everything's a Google search away, but sometimes the anecdotal first person evidence is really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I want to maybe pick one of these gray boxes and start bringing it into a higher fidelity.
Cool.
I like that we've got the puzzle pieces here. We've, put the content that we want on the page, but the space that these gray boxes take up is not going to be accurate once we make progress.
Right.
And obviously the design is going to change too.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe go top to bottom and start with the latest articles. So we could make this like article card or article snippet where you have, 5 ways to never use hooks. Like that could be our article snippet.
Oh, wait.
Let's work on what that's going
Yeah,
to
we
look
actually
like.
are. Last time on the stream, what we did is we turned these into their own components. So each of these are already article cards.
Oh, perfect. So we can just go to the master component, which I think you have
Yep.
selected, and start making some progress there. Like that red dot's going to change, and I'm going to get rid of this background, the gray background.
Cool. And so all the font, of course, I would imagine we want to make that the same color as the font above.
Correct. And maybe you can show the viewers how to create a color style we can reuse, since we changed this color is no longer a color style.
I actually don't. I don't
remember
remember how to do that.
Cool. So if you click on one of the pieces of text where we did change the color,
Okay.
and then on the right side you'll see a fill,
Yep.
and you can hit the 4 dots and then plus.
Okay. Okay, I got you. So what?
And we can call that something like text or gray or off-white.
Here, I'll just call it text. And then you're saying I can select
Cool.
the component and go down to, where is it? I can add a style, I would imagine.
Yeah, you'd hit the 4 dots, and then instead of hitting the plus, you would hit the new color style that you just created.
So that's what I did is I selected the text, and what it's doing is it's actually making the background white.
Did you go to fill? Let's see here.
Yes, I did. Oh, I selected the component, not the text itself.
Correct. Yes.
Aha. So select the text, go to fill, text, boom. That was easy.
There we go. And we saw it update across all 3. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Ooh, Sarah's looking at my uses page right now. It's not up to date, Sarah.
Ooh, I need the command for that too.
All right, cool. So that looks way better. I guess also here, Ryan, to bring this all articles button in line with the nav, should that be capitalized as well?
Yeah, I would say so.
And do you think I need like the 2 caret deal?
If you do want to go with it, I would use an icon instead of the text
Yeah,
character.
totally. But do you think I should
So
just take it out to see what it looks like there? I actually sort of like it without it, to be honest.
cool. Let's roll with it like that without it.
And then
So let's make some progress on the articles. Like what is that red dot going to be? It's going to be some sort of icon.
yeah, so we
something.
were talking last time about, I think, let me go to my inspiration page real quick. So this is something Chris does that I really like. He sort of categorizes his posts, and that gets an icon gets generated based on that. So you can tell if it's a Gatsby article, if it's a JavaScript specific article. So I would like to do the same thing. I think you, Ryan, you also had that on your site right here. I see a VS Code, a React, and a heart icon. So what are you doing exactly? In your front matter, or are you just setting a category and then generating an icon based on that?
Exactly. So I just have an icon field in my front matter and an enumeration in the article component.
Okay, cool.
that just picks the right icon based on what's in the front matter. And I got that idea right from Chris as well. So shout out to Chris for that one. Yeah, let's use this. So what icons would you like here?
Yeah,
I mean, hooks, probably something with React.
yeah, totally. So I'm thinking right now there would definitely be React based content. Let me actually, I'm gonna pull up my site again, real quick. I just want to look real. I don't even remember what blog posts I have at this point on my site. So,
Sure.
okay, Firefox doesn't want to cooperate. Joseph, thanks for hopping in the chat. I see you down there. So right now, primarily we have, like you said, hook series. Here we have some sort of like, it's ESLint prettier, so that's like sort of like a general JS tooling.
Okay.
This is an article about SSH keys, so I guess you could call that more of like a security-esque article, so maybe a lock icon. I don't write too much about that.
Nice.
And then the other main topic I would say that I've been writing about, it seems like it's React icon, JavaScript icon, maybe like a little lock, and like stream stuff. So I don't know if that would be camera, whatever.
Cool. We could use a camera. We could use Twitch. We could use like a play symbol.
I actually like the idea of using the Twitch icon to reinforce that that's where I stream. So let's do that.
Awesome. So while you've been saying this, I've just been kind of gathering icons and bringing them in here.
And where are you pulling these from?
Can...
Your Figma site or?
So I use an app called Icon Jar. It is not free, but an app where it sits locally, and I can add icons to it, SVGs, tag them, name them, search, and filter over them.
That's awesome.
And then just drag them right into Figma or Sketch or VS Code or whatever I want.
That's awesome. That's really
so
cool.
That's one way to do it. But if you're looking for a free solution, you could actually use Figma and just create a Figma file and just dump your icons in it and just have a place to go for them.
That's a really good idea. Yeah, I've done what I've done before is make like a text box and then use the Font Awesome font here in Figma. Is that a good solution, or is that like a sort of don't do?
I probably wouldn't use the font, and are you having to type characters?
I forget exactly how it works. I think you do have to you have to type something or select something. I forget what it is.
There might be a Font Awesome Figma plugin. I know those are feather icons Figma plugin, where you can just drag and drop feather icons right from like a window that opens up in Figma.
Cool. Manage plugins. Let's see. I'm just looking in the plugins menu right now. I'm just going to search for icons. Nothing shows up. I guess these are installed icons. Where's the icon store?
Try Feather.
Feather.
You might have to click on the word plugins.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. Now, where do you search here? Browse all plugins.
Browse all. Yeah.
Feather. Yeah, feather icons. Oh, cool.
So that might be a good one for the generic lock icon or a key.
Gotcha. Yeah, or just like throughout the throughout the site, throughout the application, things like carrots and arrows, just having them be consistent.
Exactly. I really like Feather. It's free, open source. There's a NPM package for it, React Feather.
Oh, dope.
As you saw, a Figma plugin for it.
And so you just
and I like them how they look personally.
Yeah, so you just install it, and then I guess you can just like drag and drop.
Exactly. Go ahead and give it a shot.
Oh yeah, it's cool. Look at that. Let me actually get rid of that one. I don't want that one. Vector. I don't want that. I don't want that. Let me see. So, and cool. There's search bar built in right here. So let's see. So what we do here.
And if anyone has any questions while we're doing this, feel free to ask in the chat, and I can do my best to answer while the other Ryan is doing some designing.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so while you're doing that,
so one thing, Ryan,
I'm going to talk about our next step. Go
I
ahead.
just
Go
wanted
ahead.
to ask you a question about. So this icon comes in as its
Yeah.
own artboard, and then it has two vectors on it. Is there an easy way to? Do I just need to group all of the things in here to make it easy to move around? Because what's happening now is it's selecting each of the vectors.
I see. Do you have, let me see here. That's interesting. What I would do actually is create a component out of it. And that kind of leads us into the next steps that I wanted to walk us through for creating this article snippet component with the actual icons. So we'll get back to that. Let's get back to that.
Okay.
So to start, what I want to do is create components out of each of these icons. And you'll see why that's beneficial in a minute. Um, so I want them all to be the same size. So their bounding box or their frame, let's go with 40 pixels for now. So I'm dragging and resizing. I pressed K to enter scale mode, and then I'm holding Shift to keep the aspect ratio. And we can see this Twitch one here. It's like there's no space around it.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm going to do is hold Command. Oops. And you go back into, Command, so that that way I can drag the frame only and not affect the contents inside.
Okay. So that's.
And I'm trying to get to that 40 by 40.
So that's
there.
like the
And
bounding box, and then basically what? Oh, hey, Chef Brent with the raid. What's up, Chefy B?
correct. Welcome, Chef Brent. What's up? Party of 19.
Wow, that's a big raid right there. It's Friday night party. Welcome to the stream, everybody. Sorry, Ryan. Keep going. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no problem. Actually, maybe as the raid people come in, you could tell them what we're working on here.
Yeah, so Ryan Warner over here, Ryan Warner Codes on the internet, also is an excellent designer. So I've cajoled and convinced him to come back onto the stream for a second time to help me redesign and sort of rebrand my website to contain or to have a better packaging for the content that I'm now generating and then publishing there. So what we're doing right now for the Raiders is we're basically working on this iteration right here. And we're sort of going through this little section here where we have all the latest articles. And these red dots that we have as placeholders are going to be icons based on article category. And so Ryan is showing us right now how you can take differently sized icons and make them uniform so it's easier to work with inside of Figma.
Yep. So we've got the frame to 40 by 40, which is the size that I arbitrarily chose here. And I want to make sure this is centered. So the Twitch icon, we want this to be centered in its frame.
Okay.
Which it is. It looks a little big comparatively. Like the padding around it is a little bit bigger than the JS and the React. So I'm just going to scale it down a little bit. Again, I press K to enter scale mode. If you want to demo that for the viewers, you'll see that when you hover over the handles after pressing K, it's a different icon or different cursor than the standard. And you can switch back to the standard by pressing V.
So you have V, and then K is these double bars here. So what you're saying, Ryan, is that basically with the double bars, I need to hold Command, you said?
You don't need to hold, Shift would maintain aspect ratio. We're switching between move and scale.
Yeah, so basically I hit K. Oh, let me hit A. So with A, what would happen when I resize this? Oh.
I think it's actually V. It is V.
V, sorry. So when you resize it with V, it's just like if you hold Shift, it's just scaling and resizing the whole thing, right? But then if I...
It's possible that there's no difference here based on the contents of what's inside. This really shines or becomes obvious when we're working with strokes, for example. Like let's say you have a 1 pixel stroke and then you're resizing something, do you want that stroke to stay 1 pixel as you resize, or do you want it to kind of grow with, your arrow, your cursor as you move it, and it might become
Ah,
2 pixel border, 3 pixel
okay.
border, and like maintain that ratio
So it's
as you scale
so
it
it's
up.
like it's a different type of scaling essentially.
Correct. Yes. And so I'm just covering my bases here by pressing K to be safe because I know I want this logo to look exactly the same and all the ratios of its vectors to stay the same as I resize.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because basically what was happening here, for anybody that just joined, is the spacing around these icons, these two icons. You can see there's a bit of padding between the icon itself and the edge of the frame when I hover over it. But this icon did not have that same case. So what Ryan did was he made it so that this icon is centered within this frame now. Hey, what's up, Robert
Cool.
Tables? I see you. Look at it. I don't know. You see all the baby Yodas, Ryan? Heck and shit.
I do. I see
There's
them.
a ton of heck and
I
shits
see
too.
see baby Yodas. I see Hex. I see corgis, J-Lings corgis. I'm sorry if you can hear the lawnmowers outside.
It's nice to know that there is nature somewhere, because in my neighborhood behind me is a a house that's falling down. So you know, I'll take the lawnmowers.
It's kind of a weird time, 6 p.m. on a Friday, to be mowing my lawn,
Hey,
but here we are. So bear with me.
no,
I'll try and mute in between
yeah, no
talking.
worries, man.
Cool. All right. So let's move on. We can come back to that scaling stuff. I can definitely demonstrate that
Okay,
later. But what I really want to show it or work on here is the icons in our article snippet
gotcha.
component. Or what did we call this?
Article card.
Article card. Yes. Okay, so we've got these, somewhat uniform size, at least these top three. And now what I'm going to do is turn them into components. So I'm selecting the frame. You can see on the left it's called icons/JavaScript. And then I'm hitting the component button in the top center.
Yeah, and I'll do that for the Twitch one. And for anybody
Perfect.
watching, you see how these are now turning from black text into purple text with this icon? That's because Ryan is now converting it. So I'll do this here. We'll right click the Twitch and we'll go to create component, which also has a hotkey here, Command K option. And you can see now it's purple when we select it. It has this icon with these 4 squares. And Ryan, I believe when the squares are filled in, they're the original component, and when they're outlined, they're copies of the original. Is that the case? Cool.
Exactly. The terms that Figma uses is master component and then instances of the master component.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm going to make the naming consistent. So this Twitch one here, I'm going to change to icons/Twitch, and you'll see why in a moment. So what I'm going to have you do is in the top left, there's the layers palette or layers pane.
Mm-hmm.
And right next to that is assets. So go ahead and click on assets.
Okay. And I see local components, assets, and main.
Yeah, so main is the current page that we're in, and then at the bottom you should see icons, and if you drop that down, you'll see the icons that we just
Whoa.
created and named there. So that slash is magic. And we're kind of grouping all of these or namespacing them to the icons namespace,
Okay.
and that way they live in this UI in a special way.
Oh, and so
And now from here, you could, if you wanted, you could drag them out and create instances. You could be on a completely different page, and just drag out instances. I'll just make a couple.
oh,
Here.
cool. Yeah, and for anybody, for people on the stream, I'll just go into like a different board altogether. I'll go into the assets and just drag them out. And look, now we have those icons there as well. That's really cool. I had no idea you could do that.
Yeah, it's great for organization and reusability.
And so the way the namespace works is basically you're doing icons/JavaScript, React, Twitch, and it's the icon slash that namespace them as a group, right?
Exactly.
Cool.
Yes.
That's awesome. So you're basically like creating your
Cool.
own little library as you're working. If you organize things properly,
Yes.
you're creating like essentially a library within the file you can use throughout your different views and components and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's a great way to think about it. As developers, it's kind of the same mindset that I use when I'm coding. Like I might, when I'm first learning React, for example, I might not know to make something a component. I might be repeating myself a few times, but then as I get better as a developer, as a React developer, I can kind of see ahead and know, oh, I'm going to reuse this. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a new component right off the bat. And so as you work in Figma more, it's kind of the same mindset of creating components, predicting reusability, and then you'll pick up little tricks like this to help make you faster as you get better.
It's a great way to think about it too, because and that just shows, I think, your unique perspective from both the dev side and the design side. Is like the way you're communicating these things to me as an engineer, as a dev, makes a lot of sense. You're like making design feel like engineering a little bit.
For sure. Yeah. There's a lot of similar thinking that goes into it. And for the longest time, I mean, even still, the two disciplines can be siloed and they don't need to be.
Yeah,
So I'm actually really excited to kind of bridge that gap
that's awesome.
in whatever ways I can. So yeah, we've got these icons. They are now components. We've namespaced them. Let's bring one into our article component. So maybe work in our master component, and you can just pick any icon for now
Okay, so here's the.
and replace that red dot with an actual icon.
So what we'll do is we'll go into our assets. I'll just bring in the React. And you see that purple outline means it's within the component, I believe. And that's why it replicated in all three places.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we use this master component here, which has the dots, whereas these two just sort of followed suit. And so I guess if we, yeah, look at that. So we do that, and then if we go to the master and get rid of this ellipse, got rid of it in the two instances, but not in the master.
There might be an extra one hanging out somewhere. That might be like outside of the component.
Yeah, let me see. Yeah, there is, totally.
Perfect. Okay, so we've talked about, or I know I've talked about in my stream component overrides before. For those of you who are not familiar, these components are all the same component, but you can see that there's differences between them. For example, the text here, the copy is different. And that's because Figma allows you to override certain properties, not all properties, but certain properties like colors, um, the text. One other one, which I want to show you now, is component instances.
Cool.
So if we go to, let's say, the second article card.
So that's right.
And I'll work on the third one.
Yeah, so this is the second article, and Ryan's going to work on the third one right here.
Yeah, so if you select the icon/React from within that second article component,
Mm-hmm.
and then go to the right-hand pane again, and you'll see a new menu called Instance.
Yeah, and it has a drop down that says React.
Exactly. And now when you click that drop down, there'll be related components, and these are related again because of our namespacing.
Ooh.
And you can switch them to whatever you want, and it will try and put whatever other component into this space.
Wow.
So it's important that the frame is the same size. So like this is a square frame, for example. All of these icons are sitting within a square.
Mm-hmm.
If we did not do that, if we had a different aspect ratio, it might look a little squished.
Yeah, and they wouldn't be aligned the same way. It wouldn't be as instantaneous. There'd
Exactly.
be like a one-off customization, for example, for the Twitch icon versus the React icon.
Exactly. So that was important setup that I walked us through to allow this to just seamlessly kind of happen here. So yeah, that's awesome. I would maybe move some things around, like there's maybe not enough spacing in between each article.
Yeah, totally.
So we could add some vertical padding in between each
And
one.
can we take these three components we've created and then create a component to use that auto layout feature again?
We absolutely can, yes.
Cool. So
It's a good call out.
let's
do
do that. And then, if I remember correctly, over here on the right is auto layout. So I'm going to click plus. And now this has created a frame of our article. So I'll rename that articles so we know what we're dealing with.
Yep.
And now it has 17 pixels between, but maybe that should be more like 35, 50. I'm going to zoom out a little bit so I can see. Mm-hmm. And also, Ryan, Jacob is in the chat. Had a question for you. Is there value in not using a primary component and only using the secondary ones in your actual design? So I guess he's saying maybe make a component, a master component, but only use the instances within your design.
Great question. So the reason for the master component or editing within the master is that you can't override everything. One thing you can't override, for example, is X and Y position. So like if I wanted to make that icon on the right side of the text here, that's something that I could not do if I'm editing an instance. That I would have to go to the master component and make that change. Their overrides are limited. Things like border radiuses, color, shadows, font size, font weight. Those are all things that we can override, styles that we can override. But X, Y position or like adding a new element, a new layer is something that you can't do within the instance and that you have to do from the master. I like to organize my master components in like one single page. Maybe not while I'm working, but kind of after I've fleshed out the design a little bit, I'll move the masters to, we have like a style guide page already set up. So I might move the masters there so they're not just kind of hanging out willy-nilly. But great question.
And I'm just moving the icons here, Ryan, because I noticed that they were positioned in a way that the React one was like spilling outside of its container. But as you can see here, everybody, I selected the master component and I'm adjusting the icon position. And when I do that, all the other icons move, so that's the beauty of what Ryan is showing us here in terms of how to organize your files. Because otherwise we would have to do this each individually and then this would just become a mess. So cool. So Ryan, I went with a 40 pixel different or spacing between these different articles. How does that look to you?
It's looking much better. What do you think?
Yeah, I had tried 50, which looks like that. That to me,
a little too much.
Yeah,
maybe?
So I tried 45, but that seems a little bit much as well. So I sort of landed on this 40 pixels.
Yep.
We could even tighten it up at like 36. I don't know. I like multiples of 8 or 4.
Yeah, for sure.
And then here,
working on like a 4-pixel grid is nice.
Yeah, that's a lot of the designers I've worked with in the past have done that. So I sort of just picked that up. It's not. I don't know enough about design to understand. Maybe that is like something to do with how your eye sees space, but always looks good. And that.
Yeah, for sure. So what we're doing here is we're playing with white space. And we're creating proximity between elements so that our mind can group them, group related things together to help us organize information in a way that's easy to comprehend. So before, the white space was maybe a little too close and each separate article was kind of bleeding into itself or into each other.
Yeah.
So we bumped that space up a little bit. And then as you were playing with it, you noticed eventually you got a little bit too much space in between, and these related elements or somewhat related elements, because they're all article cards, right? We're kind of losing the proximity that they needed to communicate that they're related. So we brought that back down, and now we found this sweet spot here.
Yeah, it's like this nice balance between you want to give each of the article cards spacing to show that they are their own thing, but they are their own things within a group that makes its own sort of component. Very interesting. And how do you find the spacing between the actual article content here and the header? Originally, I was thinking maybe it needs more spacing, but maybe it needs less spacing to tie it into the header.
Yeah, this is a good question. So there's definitely some hierarchy issues here. I'm not sure if these font sizes are the same or the article title and then the section title. I want to play with the hierarchy here, maybe using color or font weight or font size
Yeah.
to better differentiate the section title from the article title.
Yeah.
So I'd probably play with bringing forward the latest articles. I'm really sorry about the
Hey,
lawnmower.
man.
How bad is
Nah,
it?
it's not that bad. I mean, it's
Okay,
cool.
cool. It's bad for me. I'll say that. It's really loud. Um, so let's try making like latest articles bold and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something I've sort of been like just learning from you in general is that this hierarchy is really what determines how things look. And so it reminds me of, so I come from a film background. I went to film school. It's like when you talk about how you make things stand out in the frame with lights, there's
Hmm.
intensity, quality, and color. And so you can
Interesting.
vary your lighting by, is it soft? Is it super direct? Is it a like fractured type of light that reduces its intensity, or is it a direct spotlight? What color temperature is it? And this reminds me very much of that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same thing at a high level. It's really cool.
Let's see. So where is my font panel? So this is text. Toggle bold. Oh, that was already bold. That's why. And then this needs to be bold as well. Yeah, those are both bold. Let's see.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's looking better. We're getting there.
There's an
So that's
there's an
size
extra bold
18.
as well. Is that too heavy?
I'm kind of okay with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, let's go all the way.
Cool.
Cool.
So we got this extra bold. I think that's starting to look better. We're kind of, bringing it forward a little bit by giving it some more weight.
Definitely.
I still think it's maybe a little too close, so I'm going to bump it down. We have some artifacts here from our previous iteration
Yeah.
that I'll just get rid of. Um, so this is size 18, and then our article title is also size 18, but semi-bold.
18.
I might play with color a little bit here.
Okay.
So I'm going to work with opacities and just see what happens. So I'm bringing the latest articles back in the hierarchy. I'm lowering it down in the hierarchy so it doesn't stand out quite as much. And my reasoning for that is that it's not as important as the content itself. So we're helping the reader digest this information. We're kind of nudging them and telling them, what is important, deserves your attention, and what doesn't.
And it's sort of a fine line
And
here, right? Because you want to create this visual separation from sort of the hero position at the top of the page, but you also don't want it to steal too much attention and become the focal point.
exactly, exactly. And so we can use a number of different things to kind of play with that hierarchy, like the font weight here. We've been using that. We could also use the font size. So I'm bringing it down to 16. And I'm just kind of trying stuff and seeing what works. I know that I want to lower the hierarchy and create some hierarchy between these things. I don't know exactly how I want to do that
Mm-hmm.
yet. So I'm just kind of trying different tricks in my pocket to see what feels good to me and what kind of matches the aesthetic that we're going for. Like we could try, all uppercase. Maybe this kind of feels like it's yelling. We could increase the letter spacing, reduce the font weight back to normal. And it's a very different feel, but we still kind of reduced it on the visual hierarchy
I liked it
by
as all caps with that the extra bold and the what is that? Is that kerning that you're giving it?
exactly,
Yeah.
yes. Letter spacing is the CSS term. Kerning is the typography
Okay.
term.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I like that. I think it could even maybe use a little bit more of that letter spacing.
I agree. Let's go up to maybe 10%, maybe even more,
Yeah.
14.
No, I think that looks great. It that again, it's like we're talking about how to build hierarchy with differentiation variation in terms of the font,
Hmm.
the typography we're using, and just that
Yep.
spacing alone sort of makes it stand out. Plus the upcase, plus the font weight. I like that a lot.
Cool. Glad you like it. So this all articles is maybe similar to the latest articles on the hierarchy. So actually, I'm going to have you do this. If you right click on latest articles and at the bottom go to copy paste and then select copy properties.
And then right click all articles and copy paste properties.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
So this gives us a place to start with, but we're gonna iterate from here. You notice that it kind of wrapped our text there, and then you dragged it to fix it. But now the bounding box isn't quite right. It's not matching. There is a text property.
Is it the auto width?
If you,
Yeah, I
yes.
was just gonna say, this is the thing Ryan taught me on the last stream that I've been using every time I use Figma since, and it's been, and it's like such a small thing, but it's a real game changer for me. This bounding box, like Ryan is saying around the text, is not the proper size. But if you come down here into text, there's auto width, and if you click that, it makes the bounding box the proper size for the text, which just makes it much easier to work with because there's not spacing inside the bounding box that you're then having to account for when aligning things.
Hmm. Exactly. Well said. Okay, so we're starting with this base, so the base properties that we established in our latest articles, but I would argue that this is less important than the section title
Agreed.
itself. So I'm going to reduce the font size because I'm trying to lower this on the hierarchy, even more than we lowered the latest articles. So I'm down to 14. Maybe I'll try a 12. Maybe that's too
Maybe
small. I don't
maybe
know yet.
14 with a lighter
Back
weight.
up. Yeah. So we could go 14 with a semi-bold. Maybe reduce the letter spacing to like 8. Went to bold there. Maybe go down to 12 and bring the boldness back up. Just kind of playing with stuff. I still not nothing standing out as like that's it
I
yet.
sort of liked the
Back back to
I sort of
opacity.
liked the size 14 with I think a bold, but not, excuse me, not semi bold, not extra bold.
Cool. So I bumped that up to 14 and it's bold. How do you feel about this opacity? We got the 70% and then here's the 100%.
Would this be a place that maybe color would come into play? Like, would it be crazy to, if we used one of these accent colors I have, would that call too much attention to this and make it stand out way too much in the hierarchy?
I definitely think we should try it. My gut says it will stand out too much, but it would be a great interaction color, a great hover
Yeah, yeah, that's what
or
I was
click.
thinking the same thing.
So
Yeah, and then we want to line it up. Like, should I bring it down to sit on the same baseline as the latest articles text?
yeah, I think so. I think that would look good.
So do that. So that would be center aligned right there, baseline right there. So now horizontally they're aligned with one another.
Yep. I'm just going to drag some guides out from the left. Just make sure everything's kind of sitting the same left alignment.
Yeah. Yeah, and I actually,
So I noticed it was just a little
and
off.
for folks in the chat in the stream, Ryan is pulling these on his end in the shared document, but I was not able to see the guides until I hit Shift R, which pulls up the rulers on the edge of the frame here, and that's also what allows you to bring up guides. So you can pull from the top bar or the sidebar, just like you would in like Photoshop or something like that.
Yep, exactly. Good points. Cool. So I'm going to just get rid of these guys. They're kind of distracting when I don't need them. So just drag them back into the ruler to get rid of them.
And then I just hit Shift R again, and as you see on the stream, that takes away the rulers altogether and the guides as well.
Nice. This is we're making good progress. I think it's coming
The
along
all articles
quite
actually,
nicely.
it looks like I zoomed out a little bit and looked at it sort of in
Hmm.
context of the other spacing adjustments you made, and it now feels a lot more balanced to me.
Agreed. Want to play with the icon? We've got those feather icons now. The caret or chevron to the right, like for the all articles, to like
Yes. Yes.
give a cue that hey, this is going to take me somewhere. This is interactable.
And so here we go. We pulled up our Feather Icons plugin here, and we have a couple icons we can use. So I just used the right chevron, and the fill color needs to be white. So now we have this caret, and I'm assuming you're suggesting that what we do is, hold on one second, I have two of them. Yeah,
Componentize. Is that what
yeah,
you
I'm going to
said?
turn it into a component and then bring it over here.
Yep.
So we'll want to, so it's a little bit too big. So I guess I'll scale it down. And so Ryan, can you see on the stream? What I'm doing, everybody, is I'm holding Option, and that shows you guides that sort of determine spacing from other objects and sort of like. So what I'm doing is I'm using it try to align this so that it's in the center. But I guess Ryan, what we could do is we could also select both of these things and then use align vertical centers.
Yep, that would also work.
So as you can see, the chevron, I don't know about you, but that looks like it's a little bit too big. Maybe we should make it a little bit smaller.
Yeah, let's try that.
So it's 20.
I agree, it's too big.
Let's go. Let's do like 16, if it'll let us. Let's lock this. 16. And then if we do that again, and we align vertical centers, looks like they're aligned. And this is opacity 70, so we should probably match that here. And then now they look like one piece of text. And I think we should probably group this as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll right click, go to group, or we can hit Apple G. And so now we have a group, and I'll call this all articles. I'll put that little caret in there so we know what we're dealing with. But now we'll want to adjust this left and right because we want it to line up with the guide. So we'll bring a guide back, line it up with the content. And again,
And that arrow could potentially sit to the left of that guide just a little bit. If you imagine there's like a bounding box around it. Sometimes I like to play with having things not exactly line up.
so sort of like that, where there's a little bit of space between the two.
Yeah, like imagine an invisible square around that. I think it may be a little too close here, so I'm gonna. Why can't I move that? Maybe because you were touching it. There we go.
Oh, okay. I got
Giving a
you.
little breathing room.
But then should the caret be up against the guide on the right to match the content below?
Yeah, I think as I see it, kind of feels better like that, like you originally had it.
Cool.
Nice.
I like that. See, I'm getting better at Figma because the more time I spend with you, the more I know what's going on.
Yeah, it's looking good. Yeah, you're kind of reading my mind sometimes, which is cool to see. Nice. So there's probably more work, more polish we could do, more playing around we could do with the article section, but I think this is a huge improvement, and I think it's a good time to maybe switch gears and think about like what does the stream section look like?
Yeah, let's.
Or what does the tip section
Yeah,
look
no,
like? The stream section kind of excites me.
I
I'm curious what your
totally agree.
thoughts are there.
But before we do that, I'm going to take a page from your book. I'm going to do a Figma commit, so to speak. Here, I'm going to copy this frame, and we'll go into our archive and we'll do what we did last time. We'll just paste this, and so now, again, this is a really cool way for us to, just for people who aren't on the first stream, this is sort of where we started. And now we've gone through these different iterations. You can see things evolve. We land here, right? And then this is where we are now. It's a big improvement in my opinion. So I really like the idea of using this as a way not only to track things that maybe you want to revisit later, but also to just look at the progress you're making in general and to feel better about how things are going.
Yeah, it's cool to see it evolve. I know this was a little issue there because the components, like we're still using that same component. So as we update the master, the old versions are changing. So if you wanted to really be diligent about this, we might detach those component instances. But it's not a big deal.
Let's move on to the next section. I think that's going to be good. And I was thinking about this when we talked the other day when we were preparing for the stream. When we had last talked, I was thinking that like the tips and the streams would sort of sit like this and, 2/3 to 1/3. But I don't know if that's necessarily the way to go anymore, because I right now, at least, I stream frequently, or at least more consistently than I feel I would be publishing tips. So I'm wondering, maybe it doesn't need to be split here. Maybe streams is its own section and tips is below, or something like that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. I also think that streaming maybe deserves more real estate because, with your library that you're working on, the whole video could be sitting here if you wanted.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned somebody was using your library and had like a sticky, floaty type of UI.
Yep.
So there's lots we could play with here.
Yeah, that was Kurt Kemple from Apollo is using this, my live stream package, as is James Quick from Auth0. But what Kurt did is he like Ryan was saying, he wrapped it in a div that sort of sticks to the bottom left corner as you're browsing through and scrolling through his site. So if he's streaming, you get to like watch his stream and learn more about Kurt, which I think that's a great idea.
Cool. So I just gave us some more room to work with by increasing the height of our frame. And we can kind of just move this down for now. I'm not going to get rid of it because we do kind of want to be thinking about what the content is. So we can remove it as we get there. So the stream, and maybe I should be letting you do this, but I'm just going to copy paste and drag this in as if it was a screenshot of your live stream. Maybe I should actually take a screenshot, and that might be better.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah.
I'm going to delete that, and I've actually got the stream open.
Look at that.
So let's
You're a guest and a viewer. That
is correct. So I'm just grabbing a screenshot on my end, and then I'm going to drag it in.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, because so the package Ryan is referring to, I've worked on some other streams. Essentially what it does is it makes some calls. It's a React component. It makes some calls. If you're live on Mixer, YouTube, Twitch, it will embed a responsive iframe where you place the component in your markup. Otherwise, nothing renders, but there is an optional prop that allows you to render like an offline component. So if you wanted to say, point people to your Twitch channel even when you're not live, you could create whatever little component you want and feed it into my offline prop. And that's something
super cool.
That's something I'm going to be working on more in the next couple days, just because Twitch is changing the API. Ryan and I have been talking about this. Now I need to use OAuth, so there's going to be some serverless function stuff and all sorts of fun.
Yeah, I'm really excited to get that going on my own projects too. Party Corgi site, my personal site, typical UI site, which doesn't exist yet, but it will one day.
I wonder, are you guys going to build...
Shout out to Dom.
Yeah, are you and Dom going to build the site using UI components you build on the stream? That would be awesome.
Yeah, I think we should definitely do that. Dom's had a really busy week, so we haven't done typical UI in a few weeks. But we need to. I want to. So yeah,
Yeah,
I think your component.
look at a social
Go
media
ahead.
thread, and Dom's at the top of it.
Yeah, he's at Magnolia. He's on Learn with
Yep.
Jason, streaming on his personal site. Anyways, I've got the screenshot in
Partisan
here.
coder,
I'm kind
thank
of
you.
playing with it. Welcome, Partisan. Got the screenshot in here. Not exactly sure how this is going to turn out. I notice I don't have quite enough room, and it's going to give us too much room so that we don't feel claustrophobic as we're designing.
Some
Give this some more
I'm wondering
space.
in terms of the stream. So this would be like the embed, right? Versus like a list of previous streams. Would this be something that we would potentially want to put at the in like the place of the hero image or above or below it? Like I'm not really quite sure where it belongs. Like I would this could potentially be below the fold, so to speak, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So these are all things that are worth playing with. We could make a copy of this and just see like, what does the live now state look like?
Cool.
Copy this entire frame. So I'm just going to go ahead and do
Yeah,
that.
great. So Ryan just selected this entire frame here, and then he copied and pasted it. So now we have another iteration over here, and basically we're just going to see how it looks side by side.
Exactly. And I'm not afraid to ruin this because we've got that pristine copy to the left. So it's like, what if we rearrange the ordering here?
And this,
You're live. It's, you want to get people to your stream.
yeah, and actually
This won't
what I'll
happen.
do next to
Go
Ryan
ahead.
is I'll copy the same frame, and then I'll paste it over here, and then I'll experiment with putting the stream at the very top above everything.
I like that. And we can kind of reconcile and look at both of our iterations and see what's sticking out to us, what's speaking to us.
Yeah, and one thing I was going to ask you, Ryan, was it's like I sort of think that the stream embed could be a little smaller in terms of width than sort of this content area we have in terms of our vertical content. I don't know
Hmm.
why. I think it sort of like adds to what you're talking about in terms of this hierarchy. It seems like that sort of gives it a little bit of a separation, which I like.
For sure.
Okay. And say this is like and what I'm doing here is so just some hotkeys for folks who may not be familiar. If you're scaling something and you hold shift, it will keep the aspect ratio as you see here. But if you also hold option and shift when you do that, it will keep the aspect ratio but keep the element centered where it is. So it's not going to move like you saw like this. And then you have to reposition it. Instead, you just hold both and it keeps its position, or at least its center origin, I guess I should say. Scale it, and then now we can just move it again. And we don't have to worry about left, right, just up and down. So just pulling up both of ours together. Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
So I'm not worrying too much about typography or styling. I'm just kind of letting my brain run wild. And if an idea comes to my head, I'm just putting it out here on the page.
So I sort of have this little idea too. I'll follow suit. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take this Twitch purple going to put it right above. And then put some text in here. Oh. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to white text. I'm going to use this little, like we saw before, auto width to make this text be the right size, or the bounding box around the text, I should say. Should probably do that to this as well. I'll make this right line.
Hey, Derek. Doing it in front does let you use an aside. Can you tell me more what you mean by that?
And so, yeah, Ryan, I'm looking at yours versus mine. And yeah, I think what I don't like about my choice is that it pushes down the hero content. So it almost looks sort of strange that the hero content doesn't sit immediately up right under the nav and the header.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is really cool. I like that we kind of diverged and went our own ways and kind of just in silo let our imaginations run wild. And then now, so we went kind of wide on ideas, and now we can kind of converge on pick out what we like from each of them. So I'm liking your banner, the live on Twitch
Cool.
banner with the left align and the right align. I agree with you that pushing the hero, the H1 down, doesn't feel quite right. But what if there's like a hybrid or some way to do something in between? Like maybe something changes about the hero. Maybe the description goes away.
I mean, the whole.
We
I
bring
wonder
up
if the header
live.
could go away, or not the header, the hero. Like, not only the description you highlighted, but the sort of front end dev content, all that. I wonder if when I'm live, maybe that information is not as important and doesn't deserve the real estate, whereas the stream embed does, because it sort of gives you that information already.
That's very interesting. Yeah, so we could hide the hero entirely, and it becomes the new hero.
Yeah, and sort of like that would be like what I was saying in terms of the offline component. Like when I'm not live, the component would just be what renders out this text here. But otherwise, when I'm live, it renders the iframe. So we could do something sort of like.
Derek, that's interesting. I actually didn't know that aside elements had to be top level. I kind of assumed that you could put an aside kind of anywhere where it made
During the
sense.
front, let's use an aside. Aside elements need to be top level. Oh, okay. So it can be outside of the main. Interesting.
Well, it sounds like he's saying it's supposed to be outside of the main for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe the screen readers, it's better. I'm sure it would still work if you put them inside main.
Here we go. I'm just pulling up the MDM docs. An aside represents a portion of a document whose content is only indirectly related to the document's main content. Asides are frequently presented as sidebars or call-out boxes. That makes sense. Yeah, so I guess what you could do is like this aside, like you could create a side tag. Inside of it could be the iframe with your stream, and then the main would potentially wrap all the content below it. and then all of the like Ryan Harris and the nav at the top would sit inside of a nav tag.
Hmm.
That's what I'm thinking. And yeah, Derek, if you want to confirm whether or not that understanding is correct, please drop it in the chat. So Ryan, what do you think about this new? So I created an iteration that's sort of like a marriage of what we're talking about. So I took away the hero, but I do sort of like some of what you had. Like I do like the purple banner, but I sort of like what you've done above the embed a little, like this, all of this here. I like.
I do like bringing in the title, gives some context about what's going on. Maybe the title is more important than the link being spelled out there.
Yeah.
Clicking it will still bring you there, right? So
Let's see. Just gonna.
although the title is repeated in your overlay,
Oh, that's true. That's true. It is in the overlay. Yeah.
which might be small, or it might have some player overlay on top of it, maybe hard to read.
Well, what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna sort of mix. I'm sort of mixing yours with mine. I do like this. I don't know if the red dot might not work with the purple background.
It's clashing with that purple. Yeah, we could get rid of that.
Let's see.
I do like the call to action, like join the chat, or view now, or
I do too.
check it out, or something like that. Like you want to get somebody. The goal is to get them into the stream, get them on Twitch so they can interact in the chat.
How about this? And then,
So some sort of CTA does make a lot of sense to me.
and then this just needs to be white. Something like this.
The logo's getting kind of, oh, it looks okay, actually. Yeah, that looks fine.
Ma-
Then maybe some spacing. Like I'm going to get rid of the title, and I'm going to bring down the articles. Give it some breathing
I'm gonna
room.
do that.
Like both join the chat on Twitch. There you
And
go.
then this. Yeah, this is where I like the vertical centering with the Twitch icon. I never can get it right. Let's see.
And then give this some breathing room here. Separate it a bit. Create some proximity. Some hierarchy between the navigation. The centering is a little interesting. Like, what does it look like? Like this doesn't look quite right. Left aligned. I'm gonna leave it centered.
Maybe this.
Because we're using the same background color, things are kind of blending.
Yeah.
Could we maybe group this and then give the group a shadow?
Like a purple shadow or something like that. Or maybe we should use one of my.
Experiment with just like a dark black opacity, something like that.
Okay, yeah. That actually does show up. I wasn't sure if it would. And I'm
just polishing up some.
I'm sort of thinking that maybe the live now. Do you think that should be at the top, or maybe it should be at the bottom, so it doesn't push down the actual video content?
Is it the whole banner? The whole purple
banner?
banner?
Just put that below the iframe. Would that? It might be.
Let's try it. Let's try it and see what happens.
Let's do it. Here, I'll do it in this frame over here.
And worth noting, I'm kind of just layering on the polish here. There's definitely typography things that I would maybe change. We're just kind of iterating on the polish each time we take a pass at changing something.
Yeah, so like do this.
And it'd be cool to look back and forth between the different versions. So I'm kind of liking where it was on top. I'm glad that we tried this out. And, this is your site. Feel free to veto me at any point. But I do kind of like it on the top.
Let's see. I'm just going to. What's the spacing you have over here? 67. So let's do that. Yeah, it's like about the same. I actually agree. I do like it on the top. I think maybe. So Derek says on top gives better context.
Cool. Thank you for that, Derek. So yeah, the fact that we both liked it, and then Derek is saying gives him, the accessibility expert says it's giving better context. I think that kind of validates that top is maybe where we should proceed. So having that validated, we can add a little bit of polish here. I feel like there's not enough padding around this live
Yeah.
now, so I'm going to bring the font size down a little.
And the bar, I think,
And
might
then
even need to be a little thinner. Maybe it's too thick and it's drawing too much attention to itself.
that's definitely fair. Yeah, we could play with that. I'm going to give it maybe a bold.
And a question for you too here is like we've chosen this purple because it's the Twitch brand, but do we potentially want to use one of these accent colors that we actually see in the overlay that I've been using for some of my branding stuff? Would that be a better idea?
That could be really cool. Let's try that out. Let's try both the blue and the pink and see what's up.
So I'm gonna get rid of the one with it on the bottom because I don't think either of us really like that. Ooh, the pink actually looks nice.
I do really like the pink. I'm nervous about the white text on it. We might need to go with a dark text.
Yeah, and
It's a little like vibraty.
if we're
We didn't check the contrast, but
if we're gonna use the Twitch icon there, I think it shows up better on the blue, whereas on the pink it gets lost. But I don't know if we necessarily need that, or we could potentially find a different Twitch icon that doesn't have the purple in it and it's just white.
yeah, a couple of things there we could unpack. One, this might be blasphemy, but we could change the color of the Twitch icon to whatever we want. We could get rid of it, as you suggested, just get rid of it. That could be a nice, easy solution. We could replace it with like that like external link icon. It's like a square with the arrow pointing out.
Yeah, totally.
Let people know that it's going to open in a new tab.
It's,
No icon, like you said, could also work just fine.
I'm just gonna see what they have in terms of font awesome SVGs. I just want to see if there is an alternate Twitch icon out there. So the one they have is exactly this one as well, except the drop shadow, instead of being purple, is just black. Like we could adjust that as well on this one, I think.
Yeah, if it's SVG, we could just change that. So we might as well stick with the one we have.
Let's see.
Derek asks, could it float on the edge of the banner? By the edge, you mean like hang off the side?
Oh, you mean sort of something like, what if we did something like this? Is that strange? Is that too crazy?
Feels a little strange to me. A little. I don't know why it's there exactly. I think this is all good stuff to try though. Like off the left size and a little bigger. Left side. Yeah, let's try that.
It's funny.
Let it hang off the left, like maybe next to the live now.
It's funny, Ryan, because I was doing something with these colors the other day, and as you can see, the guides when you hold Option are like this red color, and so you can't see it with the pink. So I was trying to figure out if there was a way to change those guide colors, and I don't think there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one feature request I have for the Figma team is to let us pick any hex value for those guides.
Is this what?
So it could be completely off. Like here, I'm
Yeah,
gonna play
yeah.
with it
Feel
a
free,
little. Just
please.
gonna drive for a minute. So maybe make it a little smaller. And then it's inside this group, so it actually has that shadow, which I kind of like. Gives it a little bit of depth. And we could kind of align this icon with our left. We've got this nice hard line going here. Well, we kind of screwed it up when we were playing around. So just line that up. And then now this is kind of left aligned. If we, well, I might have to ungroup this to make it easier to select. So I'm going to ungroup, drag this, bring it over a little.
It almost reminds me of like a text message interface where like the avatar for the person speaking is the Twitch icon and the message is the iframe.
Yeah, I definitely see that too. So this is cool. I'm not convinced that I like it. I'm glad that we're playing around and just trying different stuff. So I appreciate the suggestion. I definitely want to leave it around and like think about it.
Yeah, let's duplicate this frame and try with the icon where we originally had it. But yeah, when I zoom out, it doesn't look that weird. It actually sort of looks nice. The only thing that I would potentially want the iframe and the banner, if it's going to look like that, to extend all the way to the right edge of the content so it doesn't look so sort of like left aligned.
Cool. So I'm feeling a little bit stuck, I think, on this particular module, and that happens when designing, especially for designing is not something I do full time. It's kind of like a side passion. So when I feel stuck, I tend to just move on and come back
Cool.
to it with fresh eyes. We've been staring at this module for a little while now, um, so we could move on to like tips or the footer, and
Let,
then when we come back to it, we might have
Yeah,
revelation.
let's move on to the. I still think there needs to be a sec. Like here is the this we sort of jumped to the current live stream, but we still do need this section of like latest streams. I would like to have something. I guess because I post my VODs on YouTube, maybe I would want to pull in like say the three most recent videos and then display them sort of like we're displaying the latest articles in some sort of feed fashion.
Yeah, especially when you're not live. When you are live, maybe the past broadcasts matter less. But when you're not live, we're going to be back to that original layout. Um,
And
Maybe one more to the left. I forget if I messed with that one. Okay, no, I did. I did include this. So yeah, we could get rid of it. Let's see
which one are you looking
here.
at?
If
Uh,
you click my avatar in the top right,
oh, cool.
you'll just jump right to
Oh, it
where I am,
observes you. That's cool.
and yeah, your screen will follow me. And that'll go between pages. It matches my zoom,
That's
everything.
awesome. That's super helpful.
Yeah. So, articles maybe is the most important piece of content. But you mentioned that tips are something you might do less than streams. So maybe streams could come next.
Yeah, I think that would be next. And, maybe future state we might even want to do something where maybe streams are more important than articles. But right now, I think the hierarchy is definitely
Mhm.
articles, streams, tips.
Cool. So what does a stream look like? What this piece of content is going to be different than the article. It's video, rather with audio, not just written.
Yeah, so I'm just pulling up right now sort of what the YouTube like channel interface looks like for, I don't know, let's see. Who's got a good channel? Some good news. So,
Do you have VODs on your Twitter right now?
or on,
I mean,
I
YouTube.
do, yes. Let's see.
We could take a look at what you've got there, what's existing. I'm curious if you are making custom thumbnails, if you're using default
Oh,
thumbnails.
there's a more popular Ryan Harris. That's not a surprise. I don't think I have a. There's not like custom URLs. Oh, here we go.
No, there's not. Well, I think you get one once you have like 1,000 subs, which I'm
Yep,
nowhere near.
I have 12, so
Yeah, I think I'm at like
cool.
20.
So can
Um,
you see my?
so let's look at. I'm looking at the
Yeah,
stream.
cool.
So yes, I see this. So you've got Boz. Looks like you're not adding thumbnails, but that's fine. So we could screenshot this.
Yeah.
Yeah, like and subscribe really helps me out. Really helps us
Do
out.
you do
Uh,
you
both Ryans.
like I
Sorry,
said?
bad joke. Anyways,
Do you I was wondering if it should be here. I'll screenshot this. We'll bring this in, but I'm also gonna go to one of the other UIs where it is a vertical alignment because maybe that works too. So
sure.
here's the horizontal, and I think if you go to something like playlists, live streams, we have something like this.
Cool. This is great.
And just for folks in the stream, I'm hitting Command, Control, Shift, and 4 all at once, and that brings up this screenshot crosshair. And instead of saving it to your next desktop, it actually copies it to your clipboard. So I snap a shot there, and then I just come in here, Apple V, Command V, and oh, that's because yeah, there we go, got it. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. Like, I like that the horizontal view takes up less space on the page and doesn't push more content down. I would definitely not want to do a carousel. I don't think. I think it would just be straight up 3 videos, most 3 recent, spread out evenly, Flexbox style.
Yeah, these are great observations, great thoughts. I think both could work. We could do three, and obviously we change the size so that the three would take up the full max width that we're working with. You could also continue on with the article kind of vertically stacked layout. I kind of like the idea though of varying it up, like you were saying,
Yeah, me too.
and giving the page some spice.
Let's move this off the page. Let's work with the horizontal view. And
Hmm.
so if I were to select this image, right, is there an easy way for me to crop? Like if I hold Option and move one of these bounding boxes, will it auto crop that layer?
Let's see. There is a way to do it. So I pressed V to make sure that I was in move mode, and then it is cropping, but it's cropping from both sides.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure exactly how or if we can change that. One thing we could do is create a frame. Yeah, this is probably the easiest way, at least that I know. We can create a frame here. Let's see, there's a way to do it. Frame selection. There we go. So if you select, I'm going to Command Z and let you try it
Sure.
out. So if you select the screenshot there and then right click, there's a frame selection option.
Yep.
And that'll just create a frame that best fits the
Ah,
content.
okay. So it just turns whatever content you have selected into its own frame.
Yeah, and puts it inside that frame or artboard if you're coming from
Yeah,
Sketch.
yeah.
So now that we have our frame, you can select the frame, and in the right-hand panel, there's an option or a checkbox for clip content.
In the right hand panel, let's see.
It's at the top-ish, above the constraints. You have to have the frame selected, not the
Ah,
image.
okay. So I have the frame selected. Clip content. Cool. Ah, okay.
So you can think of this like overflow hidden.
And then do it this way too, so it's like even. Oh. So I clipped it, but now it's displaying. Oh, I got it. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we have like, it's a little rough in terms of sizing because there's a little extra padding on the left side, but now we have like 3 videos essentially.
Yeah, I'm glad we walked through like the frame and the clip content stuff, but I think really we'd probably want to recreate this rather than having it be an image. But this is great for just getting something down on paper and just like playing with how it looks. Like we made great progress here. We started with two different layouts, a horizontal and a vertical. We immediately were able to rule out the vertical one, and we also immediately ruled out the carousel. And we kind of know what we want now. And so we're just get it a little bit closer to how it's actually going to look. I resize it so it's for the full width here.
Right.
And then from here, I would probably recreate this from scratch using raw assets, real text. Maybe bring in the thumbnails full size, either a screenshot of them or like open the YouTube video itself and screenshot that whole video.
Gotcha. And
So that we have a nice big size to work with so it doesn't look pixelated. Um, just as like a branding tip, I might suggest creating your own thumbnails that
yeah.
include like the stream title or
Yep.
something. Because right now, you can't really see what's going on in the thumbnail. I think it's just auto picking. But yeah, that's for another time.
Yeah.
That all being said, if you're cool with it, I think this might be a good place to stop. I'm kind of getting hungry. Have to use the restroom. We've been going for about 2 hours, and we made a lot of good progress.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think, I could potentially, this section work out in this Figma file on my own. I think you've taught me enough here that now I can create components, replace the screenshot in the instance, and sort of
Hmm.
get something down on paper so that next time we revisit this, we can look at the tip section. Because this means that once I'm able to recreate this here in Figma, I've gotten the two most important pieces or sections of content on the homepage sort of laid out. And
Yeah.
that's a huge step because, like you and I were talking about yesterday, once we have this sort of in a place where it looks good, we're feeling comfortable, I can start dev
Hmm.
on this. And then you and I can revisit some of the other pages in the future or, new pages that I might be adding in the future.
Yeah, for sure. And you could start honestly, you could start dev today if you really wanted to. Uh, we've got like the basic navigation, we've got our fonts picked out, some colors that we like, um, and then kind of lay the foundation with your theme, your colors, etc., like I was saying, and then maybe stop once you get to a certain point. We come back, we do more design, and you go back to code and back to design and back to code. Um, and then also as homework, you could, what is a first shot as a footer at a footer look like?
Yeah.
What kind of content do you think you're going to want to put in that footer?
Yeah.
It doesn't need to look good, and maybe we could, spice it up, sprucing it up on the next stream.
Yeah. No, that sounds great. Yeah. And thank you so much for coming on the stream again. I really appreciate all
Thanks for
your
having me.
guidance and insight, not only to the design and dev, but also just how to organize myself in Figma. So thanks again. I'm Ryan Harris. You know me, ryanharris.dev. This is Ryan Warner Codes, which I believe your site is ryanwarner.codes.
It is ryan.warner.codes or rw.codes. I'll just throw a link in the
Yeah,
chat.
throw a link in the chat. Hit up his site. James, I see you there in the chat. Thanks for coming in, dropping by. But that's all we're going to do for today. So thanks so much. Thanks for coming. And make sure you stay safe. Take care of each other out there. Things are a bit crazy in the world right now. And I'll see you next time. And Ryan, you enjoy yourself this weekend and stay safe.
Thanks, y'all.
Take care.
Peace.
Bye.